Welcome back to another episode of the Next Generation Cowboy Creative Style. I am here with my amazing co-host, Miss Lindsay Miller.
Cowboys.
Shut up.
We learned that I think it's a generational thing, Kay.
I hate that you posted that.
I'm ready to throw down.
Lindsay's social media privileges for the Cowboy Creatives have been revoked because all she did was go and embarrass Lauren.
No, because then I ended up being the one embarrassed because everybody's like, that's definitely a thing in Idaho. I've heard it in California. I'm like, well, get off this page. Go away because I don't believe you. Wrong.
See, I liked the people that were like, yeah, I've heard that before, but I'm embarrassed that I said it. Okay.
No, it's okay. It's okay because then I was shocked. I was actually like, when people were like, no, I've heard that before. I was like, get out of here. Get out of here. I've spent so much time at sale barns and I've never once heard that term in my life. But it's okay. We were equally embarrassed.
You're just old.
Because old. It really did show my age. But
yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Well, welcome back to Civilization also.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I was completely off the grid this last weekend. No service, barely any Wi-Fi. They did have Wi-Fi available for us, but it was in and out the whole time. For those that don't know, I got accepted into the CARL program for the state of Kansas, which is the Kansas Agricultural Rural Leadership Program. And so it's a 2-year program where we go across the state of Kansas and do different seminars. And then we do a international study as well. So we will go, our international study is in Brazil in 2 years. Yep.
Dang, you better give me some cowhides while you're there.
I got you. So yeah, we just go across the state of Kansas and learn about Kansas agriculture and do current events and do just a bunch of other things as well. Just developing leaders in agriculture. So super exciting. We had our first event, just kind of a get to know each other, team building, all of those sorts of things. Had some really awesome speakers come in and do some presentations and talk with us. Yeah, so it was a really good weekend. We went to Rock Springs in Kansas, and if you're from the Kansas area and grew up in Kansas 4-H or anything, you know that Rock Springs is in a hole that has no cell phone service anywhere, unless you do a 2-mile hike up the hill, and I wasn't going to do that. So I was pretty well off the grid this weekekend, but it was nice. It was good.
So if people want to join that leadership program, can they do so?
Yes, you can apply. So if you are, if you're in Kansas, actually, if you're in any state, most states have their own version of this. So I know Nebraska has the LEAD program. I know Colorado has their version of the CARL program. I know a bunch of other states have their version of this. So it's just for professionals in the agricultural field or agricultural adjacent that maybe want to learn more. So just search up your state's Leadership Academy for Agriculture or something like that. But yeah, you can totally apply. It's a application process. So you have to apply and then get letters of reference and all of that. And then you have to do and once you make it past the initial application, then you have to do interviews. But it's a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It is. It is a lot of work. This is really a time commitment. And every time we meet, it's for 3 days. So we meet, we started this month and then we have next month off. We have September and October off. And then we start in November and we meet every month for 6 months, something like that. 3 days somewhere in the state of Kansas. So it is pretty intensive, but I know that it's going to be a really good thing in the end. And I'm going to look back in 2 years and be like, oh my gosh, this thing changed my life. So I'm super excited about it. Yeah.
I think anything where you can go and just learn more in the moment or after you sign up, you're like, why did I do this? The nerves set in or the I don't have time to do this set in. But then after it's said and done, you're like, well, I'm really glad that I did that. I think any type of learning experience, whether it's agriculture, photography, business.
You just need to take advantage of them while you can. It is a time commitment. It's a financial commitment. It's a lot of different things, but it's worth it in the end. And you can't I think we've maybe said it before that you can't continue to grow if you don't grow yourself individually. So I'm a big proponent of that. And I want to independently just be a better voice for Kansas agriculture and agriculture in general. And that goes with educating myself outside of what I know Kansas agriculture to be and stuff like that. And so it's like, I'm an Eastern Kansas girl. And so we never had issues with water rights or the aquifer or like anything like that. Whereas like the Western Kansas people that are like in Dodge City and deal with like all of this stuff all the time, like they're literally out of water a lot of the year.
Yeah.
It's really crazy to learn about. And so it's just, it really expands your mind and expands your knowledge, which I think is super important. And you get to meet some like really awesome and cool people too. So
yeah, that's a huge thing here in Colorado too, because it doesn't rain. Tucker my husband, for anybody who's listening and doesn't know, he always jokes. We're both been born and raised in Colorado our entire lives. Both our families have been farming and ranching for multiple generations. And apparently there's this scene from the movie Holes where one of the guards, he's like, once upon a time, there was a magical place where it never rained. The end. And Tucker says that he really wants me to make like a TikTok with that sound because that's literally Colorado. Like,
yeah,
it rains in the mountains, and then they have like snowfall, like more snowfall in the mountains, but it's pretty dry. I mean, like if we get 10 inches of rain in a year, like build an ark, wash out, like it's flooding.
Do you guys pump from the aquifer at all, or do you like use groundwater reserves, or how does like, because I know like in Eastern Colorado, are you above the aquifer still, or
well, we have to go 800 feet down to drill a well, but like you can't irrigate with your well, like that's illegal. You can't do that.
Well, yeah, I knew that, but I just didn't know how your guys' water rights worked in the state of like Colorado.
So it's more like mineral rights is kind of what they call it. Unless if you're closer to like where like the irrigated farm ground is, you can have like irrigated like pastures and stuff for your livestock. But you do still have to purchase water rights. Yep. And like sometimes there's certain farms that have like water rights that are grandfathered in. I will say this, that that's definitely more on the farming side of things, and I don't want to put my foot in my mouth because that's my brother's thing. I married a drylander, and I have never, I love farming. My dad is a farmer through and through. My brother is. My grandpa is. My grandpa's also a cattleman. That's where I like inherited, loving cattle and just all that stuff. But definitely that's more of my brother's forte, having to order in water from the ditch rider and stuff like that. I know enough about it because I've grown up in it. But, when push came to shove, I was like, I definitely want to raise cattle out on the prairie where it doesn't rain. I could care less about irrigating crop. Not careless, but like it's not my thing. It's just not, I can't.
And I think that's like something other that's really cool about the program that like I'm involved in is like I am a rancher's daughter. I know nothing about row crops or farming. Well, I do. I know enough to like get myself by and like understand it. But at the same time, like we're just two different sects of agriculture. And so it's really exciting that like we get to learn more about that. And then like we're also doing tours of like some of the biggest dairies in the States and stuff like that. Cause like Kansas houses some of those. And it's really cool. So we're going to do like dairy. We're going to do like obviously like ranch land agriculture. We're going to do farming agriculture. We're going to do like rural development, all of these things. So I think that's really cool. That's like, okay, I get to learn a lot of things because I was not exposed to this as a kid. So
yeah, it's awesome. I mean, that's definitely what I have seen a lot too, from like just traveling around the entire country, doing different, like shooting different rural ranch weddings, farm weddings. Like literally people are like, wait, you irrigate your crops? And then like irrigation in Nebraska is like different than irrigation in Colorado. And like, then I go somewhere like Illinois where it just rains all the time and they don't have to like irrigate their crops. And when I tell people that, I'm like, yeah, like people are like, oh, you're from Colorado, you must know how to like ski and snowboard. I'm like, absolutely not, because my dad works for my grandpa and we have the cattle feedlot, which is like a full-time 365 days a year job. And then we have our cows, which typically the cows here in Colorado, so like the standard, I don't know if I've said this before, it's like 10 to 12 acres per pair. And if anybody's listening right now and they don't know what a pair is, it's the mom and her calf. So a cow and a calf. And then typically you're only going to get like 30 to 60 days worth out of that. So like you really have your cattle being fed almost year round. So the cow calf operation is a year round thing for my dad when I was growing up. And then we also grow crops around the Platte River outside of Kersey, Colorado. And so it's like till farming, I think is the right term for it. But basically we have to work the ground we work the ground basically from the end of like silage harvest. And then we stop once the ground freezes. And then in the spring, when it thaws back out, then, we're disking, ripping, plowing. My brother's probably going to say you didn't say those in the right order. There's like 7,000. I don't know. I just take cool pictures of them doing it.
Sorry to the farmers out here that like we're getting all of this absolutely wrong, but
I'm not wrong. It's just I don't know the exact order. Like I said, like the whole entire. I remember before my brother was born, my dad got me like I really wanted like this like Barbie Dream House stables, not the Barbie Dream House, but it was the Barbie Dream House stables for the horses.
And
like that's what I really wanted. And I remember it was before my brother's born, and there's literally a funny picture of like Christmas, and I go to like open it, and my dad's so excited, he's sitting behind me, and he got me like a loader, like a front end loader, if you guys know what that is. And it was like this big. It was probably a couple feet big. Yeah. And like he was so excited, and basically I did not get any Barbie Dream House anything until my brother was born, because then my dad had somebody to buy tractors for. But I grew up in the cab of tractor. I never went to like preschool or anything like that. I literally sat in the cab of tractor from like 0 weeks old, after once my mom went back from maternity leave to her full-time job, and I never left. And then I just like really took to the cattle side of things, and I was involved with the farming, the irrigating, riding in a tractor, but it was just never like my passion. That's more my brother's thing, which it works out nice because not that, and we've talked about this before, like it's kind of your brother's like namesake to like inherit your dad's stuff as well. Yeah. But like, that's my brother's, is to inherit that. So I kind of branched out and did my own thing and grew my own cattle operation. So I can tell you about silage, but only to a certain extent.
Yep. I can tell you what my cattle eat. The silage, but that's not it.
If anybody needs help at the hay sale, I'm your girl. But don't ask me how to bale hay, because that would be my brother's job.
That's fair. Very
anyways,
Anyhow, that's what I know.
Ag 101 with Lindsay and Lauren. What can we say?
Tee. Yeah. I don't know. We're not qualified to do that. We can teach you all about photography in the Western industry and creativeness all day long. But Ag 101, nah, not really.
I like to advocate for agriculture.
Well, I love to advocate for agriculture. I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, if just general agriculture, if I had to talk about the dairy industry or the farming industry, and not like the like cow-calf operations or just like livestock agriculture, I'd be a fish out of water.
I could talk about feedlots, cow-calf operation, but like I said, if you want to know specifics, and I know, like I said, a little bit about farming, but Paquito, just a little bit. So that's my brother's thing.
Yes, gotta love it. Well,
should we dive into what this episode is about?
I think we should. We've kept the people sitting
Suspense.
through our chit chat for the past 13 minutes. So
hello.
I think it's hi, welcome to the podcast. We're gonna do Q&As today. So
Q&As. These are real life Q&As, you guys. Literally, when Lauren and I were talking about so she's a super planner. If anybody hasn't recognized that yet. So when she's like trying to plan out our lives like 5 years in advance, and we're like, what should each weekly topic be about? And we wanted to do Q&As. I like literally sent her screenshots of people who like asked me questions that week, like out of the blue. And I was like, bro, I have our content for the week.
We got our content.
Yeah.
We're ready. Yep.
We are ready.
In the future, we will definitely be putting up some question boxes and stuff like that too for you guys if you ever want to submit them. But always feel free to just DM us questions, and then we can put them on the calendar.
And it will be anonymous.
Yes, it will be anonymous. And like we've talked about before, like in a previous episode or something, or maybe Lindsay's just talked about it on our socials, I'm getting married soon. Or by the time this comes out, I might already be married. I will already be married by the time this comes out. I hope so. And so, Lindsay, shut up. And so life is a little crazy right now. So we are pre-recording this like a few weeks in advance, but more Q&A episodes will be to come.
Yeah.
And just send us any questions y'all have, and we'll try to get you featured, try to get your question answered. And if it is a question that we're like, oh, that's a good full podcast topic, don't be sad if your question doesn't get answered right away, because we might be making a full episode out of it. So
Lauren only has all of our content planned through December, so sit tight.
I feel like it's only right?
But
like,
yeah, I mean, that's you, and that's why we love you.
It is me.
But that doesn't mean that if you can't, you can still submit questions to us, and like definitely, like if we want to throw it in there somewhere, do a bonus episode, or we want to rework everything, like feel free to reach out to us. We're excited to hear from you, and we're excited for the first questions and answers. So,
Lindsay, you want to kick it off?
All right. Yeah. So this is actually a DM that I got from one of my followers over on Miss Miller's Photography. And she's also a photographer, and she sent me a message. She's like, hey, just want to know how you get a consistent editing style across all seasons and sessions. So if you are a photographer or a videographer, listen up, because this one's for you. So, I'll start off by saying I have just like so many things to say about this. But I think to start with, I think we need to talk about like the main editing styles. Yeah. So you have a warm editing style, a cool editing style, moody editing styles, light and airy, true to life, and then now recently kind of like the filmy vibe. Even if you're not shooting on a film camera, people still like to like add grain and make it look filmy and just like the colors and the tones. So now film is also a popular editing style here in 2024. So I think those are kind of the main editing styles. So when Lauren and I are going through this Q&A and we're referring back to warm or light and airy or true to life, we're talking about a specific editing style. And this is just my personal opinion. Obviously, I know not everybody's going to agree with me, but I truly feel like you should try to like stay in a wheelhouse of like 1 to 2 editing styles. So I would describe my editing style as warm, but still true to life.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you feel?
I would absolutely agree with that. Like, and there's nothing wrong with your editing style evolving and changing over time. I want to make that very clear that like your editing style is going to evolve and change as you evolve and change as a photographer. And so mine, I would say, is warm, but very almost in the same sense, Lindsay. Like mine's warm, but true to life. So if anything, mine maybe even pushes on the cool side a little bit sometimes. Lindsay's photos, like if you put my photos next to Lindsay's, they're definitely, my photos are cooler than Lindsay's are.
In the same respect, you could put my warm photos next to another photographer's and you'd be like, okay, well, yours aren't warm. They look more true to life. So I feel like you can describe your style as much as you want.
You're just going to have to go look at the photos.
Like, but here's the thing. Like, Lauren and I could both be warm, true to life, but like our photos aren't going to look the same.
Yeah, precisely.
And we talk about this a lot at our workshops, you know, different sensors and cameras and so on and so forth. But I think the biggest thing on this is you need to identify with at least 1 to 2 editing styles from the main editing style. So you have your warm, your cool, light and airy, moody, true to life, and film. Yeah. That doesn't mean you can't intermix them.
Yeah, you can intermix them, but it's also one of those things that's like you kind of maybe need some that work well together. So it's like you can't be light and airy and also dark and moody. Like that. Unless you are shooting 2 very different things. So like if you are doing like a one-off shoot that needs to be very dark and moody and like that's the goal you're going for, but you're normally a light and airy photographer, like all power to you. But I don't think you can be both of those.
Yeah. That's our opinion. I mean, that doesn't mean we can't be proved wrong, but I think it also has it matters a lot with where you live, right? Yeah. So I have noticed this. I've been shooting weddings all across the country now. I've been doing weddings for a long time, but I've been traveling shooting weddings since 2018. And like, I literally tell people, I'm like, oh, the light, like people who aren't photographers, they don't understand. I'm like, the light hangs differently based on humidity, based on if you have a lot of trees, if you're in an open field, if you're out in the prairie where it's super dry and it's just sun all the time. Like I literally, first and foremost, I was like, I did not want to go to California to shoot a wedding because me being from Colorado, a lot of Coloradans are not big California fans.
Because from California, we still love you.
Yes, we still love you. But don't move to my state. Stay out. Anyways, it's not me. It's the whole state. We all dislike you. It's fine. I'm joking. Anyways, it's a joke. It's a joke.
It's a joke.
Kind of.
Lindsay loves everyone. Not really.
But like I was like I don't want to go to California, like all the stereotypical things. Like I'm sure people think I'm from Colorado, so they probably think that like I smoke pot or something, like stereotypical Coloradan. I probably ski, snowboard, and smoke pot. Who knows? What do you do? But like when I went to California, like I told Tucker, I was like, I'm ready to move to the state because the light here and my editing style, I was just like, oh, like it was perfect. Like just chef's kiss. And I shot in literally like foggy, cloudy weather, full blown sun, and then also like perfect golden hour lighting over like a span of a week. Like I shot in all these different lighting scenarios, and just the way, I don't know if it was like the salt water in the air, like the elevation was not like sea level. Like we were in an area that was like kind of in the mountains, you know? And I was like, I just love this place and I want to move here forever. But yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it depends.
Yeah, it does depend. And that totally like relates to the fact that like you could live in the same area and the times of day you shoot, the locations you choose, all of those things are going to affect your editing style. So it's like even before we walk into Lightroom, there are things that you need to take into consideration of like if you are looking to achieve a very consistent like Instagram look or editing style look across all of your portfolios, things like that, like understanding that the time of the day, the cloud coverage, the area that you shoot in, the direction that the sun is hitting your like portfolio clients or whatever you're shooting, like all of that matters on achieving that on the back end. Because you could go out into a field and you could take a picture 10 minutes apart and you're going to have to edit them differently to achieve that. But you could also take a picture like with facing the sun and then back to the sun, and you're going to have to edit completely differently with that too, just because of the angle of the sun.
Well, and the thing too is that like the biggest thing here that I will start off by saying, I mean, I've been talking for a long time, but I guess to help people, make sure that you are posting. Like, I'm not saying that if let's just have a hypothetical situation here for a second. Let's say it is scheduled to be 100% chance of rain in the forecast. Usually what I do is I contact my clients and I'm like, hey, do you want to reschedule? I'm more than fine rescheduling, especially if it's not a travel session. You know, like it's super easy to do that. Now, if the clients are like, no, we still want to do it today, then I go ahead and I tell the clients, I'm like, okay, that's totally fine. Your pictures are still going to be very beautiful, but I just want you to know that like, obviously you've been looking at my, you know, golden hour sunset photos, like, and we're not getting a golden hour today. I'm very clear. And I tell them we are not going to get a golden hour where's my words? A golden hour today because of the cloud coverage. It's just not going to happen. And when I'm upfront with them about that, they know. So if it was the client's choice and they're like, nope, we just want to go for it, we don't care, like they'll be pretty either way. I'm not saying you have to post those into your portfolio, but it is good to keep in mind that you shouldn't just do the exact same lighting scenario across your entire portfolio, especially if you're like a wedding photographer or a wedding videographer, because that's not really realistic to your client because you aren't doing an entire 10 to 8 hour wedding at golden hour. So I would encourage people out there, photographers, videographers, make sure that you are grabbing different sessions or weddings that were shot in maybe, I wouldn't even say like ideal lighting, like maybe grab some photos that were shot in the middle of the day, but you still really feel confident in the way they look, post those. Maybe it was more overcast during this wedding, post those. I'm not saying that you have to go and post your worst work, but because like, my point of the hypothetical situation is if I was upfront with the client saying, hey, these pictures probably aren't going to turn out well today, but they still want to move forward, that's their choice, not necessarily mine, and I have to respect that. I'm not saying you have to post that session. You're not hiding anything from anyone. Me as the photographer, I tried to get the client to reschedule. They made the choice not to reschedule. That's not on me at that point. So like, still find a way to post different lighting scenarios and different seasons. If you are a super warm editing style, you can't just not post your May through June photos when it's lime green, lush grass. You know, like you still need to post those. And on that note, like something that's really like, if you're a super, super warm editor, meaning like a popular term used to be kill the grass. You pull out all those greens and you make them warm. You make them yellow, orange, kind of red, those colors. You pull out the saturation of the green a little bit. I would highly encourage you, use reels and TikToks to your advantage and post behind the scenes, because there are people out there who are going to love that editing style. Like, I hate the green grass too. They are going to love it. But you need to post behind the scenes so they can say, hey, there's green trees behind us. There's green grass. And literally, here's what the photo looked like afterwards. I'm sure people have seen the reels and the TikToks where it's like, you see like, here's me getting the shot and here's the final shot. Like, show your potential clients what it looked like in real life and then what your edits look like. And that will weed out any clients who are like, why is it not green? And you don't have to be like, well, I don't edit greens. I hate green. Get green out of here, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's just being super upfront with people and like them realizing that if they hire you as their photographer, with the green example, it's like, if we take pictures in a field of green grass, you're not going to see green grass in your final photos. And those photos are beautiful. Like they can turn out absolutely beautiful, but it's like, you just need to make sure that you're communicating that well with your clients, that that is going to be kind of the final look of.
And there's definitely people out there who want that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know for me personally, like I edit my greens different based on different scenarios too. Like your greens are going to look different. Greens are such a touchy subject with photographers because greens are probably the thing that every photographer does differently, and you're going to find your style and find your groove. But for me, I used to really like darken them up, pull down the saturation a little bit. I wasn't killing them, but I was darkening them up because greens can look very lime green. And
especially where you live.
Yeah, especially where I live. And so recently I've been going more true to life of like brightening the greens up, but not making them lime green in any way. And that's just like advancement in my knowledge around greens and editing styles. And then also like me pushing more towards the true to life kind of colors. And that's just personal editing things. Like I think Lindsay and I's whole point with this is the fact that like the time of year that you post, that you go and take photos that's going to affect your editing style as well. But then also it's making sure that your portfolio is diverse in the fact that like you have photos that are not only in golden hour, you have photos that are during the day, you have photos that like are in
blue hour.
Blue hour and just different areas. And you don't have to post all of those like on your Instagram, but make them like part of your portfolio on your website, or make them a part of your client guides or different things like that, showing that like, hey, if you were hiring me, like weddings, for example, if you were hiring me to come do your wedding and I am doing a 10-hour wedding, like Lindsay said, it's not going to be golden hour all day. And this is kind of what you can expect the photos to look like. Like I'm not going to go make you stand out in the sun with the sun right above 12 o'clock on us. Like we're going to go find some shade or something, but this is what you can expect that to kind of look like in the end.
Right. And it has taken me a long time. I have been doing photography since 2014, full-time since 2015. And I will say that it has taken me a long time. Even like 5 years ago, I would I would hate June so much because like the grass just turns this like putrid lime green, new growth, new life color. And like, I love life. I love the grass. Give it all to me. However, something about those 4 weeks of June, it is just lime green, highlighter green. And all my clients like, oh my gosh, the green grass. And I'm like, no. Like, I just want like slightly dead grass. Like it can still be green, but make it a little crunchy,
make it like a little crunchy.
Let's not have it so
an
crazy.
Agricultural person that's not a photographer or creative listening to this, I apologize. Lindsay and I love our green grass for our cow pastures. We don't necessarily love our green grass for taking client photos.
It reflects a booger green hue up onto your skin. And then like if they're wearing like, let's say they're wearing like a pink shirt or something, I'm like, oh dear Lord, help me, someone help me. But I will say it has taken me a long time. So what I went ahead and did, and hopefully this helps listeners out there, either if you have purchased presets from another photographer or company, or if you have created your own, I try to stay within 3 presets that are pretty similar. One preset is definitely one that I like when I have like the recipe for it on my Lightroom that's saved, obviously. The entire preset is saved. Literally, all I have to do is, depending on the time of day and the time of year, I only have to adjust the tint. So the tint is like on your slider if you're making it more green or more magenta. And that's the overall photo. And then I'm always constantly adjusting the tone of my orange on like my color mixer. And so pretty much everything else, my blues, my greens, my shadows, my highlights, those are all staying the same. And then of course I'm adjusting my exposure, doing things like that because your exposure changes throughout the day. But really I'm using the same presets that I created that are my personal ones. And then I'm just kind of tweaking just a few things. If you start tweaking every single slider, I mean, there's no way your photos are going to look the same. However, I will say, if you are, and this is based on how my camera sensors are inside my camera, the white balance I have it set to, all that good stuff. But let's say it's like perfectly golden hour, perfect light, and my warmth, like my tone, my temperature on my like sliders in Lightroom, let's say it only has to be around like 7,000 to 8,000 on like the warmth scale. But if it turns into blue hour and I still want those look same, I have to bump those bad boys up to like 12,000 and it still looks the same. So you just kind of have to learn how to adjust maybe like 3 to 4 sliders at the max. Get a preset that kind of like is your dominant, this is what I like. And then just kind of just adjust a few sliders so you're not completely changing the vibe and the feel,
Yeah, I do the same thing. And I have like 3 or 4 different ones that like, so I've got like my black and white preset. I have my indoor preset. I have my like harsh sunlight preset. And then I have like my evening portrait preset is what I call all of them. And so they are adjusted maybe in a little bit more of a sense of like maybe my greens are a little bit more different between them. Maybe like some other things are adjusted a little bit more. But those 4, if you just put them on those 4 images that belong in those 4 categories, they would look consistent across all of them. So I know that if I pop my like portrait preset that's like for evening times on an evening photo, it's going to achieve the look. And like Lindsay said, I'm just going to have to go in and adjust a few things. I don't need to be going in and adjusting everything like from one side of the spectrum to the next side of the spectrum. This fly is a paid actor that is flying around my head. If you guys are watching this is, I'm about to get my fly swatter out and go ham. Okay, anyway, I'm just going to have to go through and, like Lindsay said, edit a few things. That's like the exposure, maybe my shadows, maybe like a few notches of a few different things. I'm not going through and
but don't like take your like green and just like throw it out of one image. Like here's what you can't do. You cannot take it can't be June through July, and you can't, in my opinion, excuse me, in my opinion, you cannot, Lindsay. You should not, perhaps, if you want to have a consistent editing style, you can't have a preset that you're using. And if anybody's listening out there and you're not a photographer and you think a preset's just a filter, it's not. It's not just a one click and done. You should know how to tweak your presets to make everything like match and look good. But back on topic here, you can't be June and July and you can't just kill all the grass and then all of a sudden now it's October and you don't want to kill the grass. Like if you are doing that, like you are sending so many mixed signals throughout your portfolio. That doesn't mean, like, that's not to say, for example, so we are recording this in August. So go back in my Instagram feed to August. I just posted an engagement session and I don't know what happened, but there was a fire that had happened that burned like, I think it was like several thousands of acres that was just maybe 12 miles away from where I was doing my session. The fire was out, but there's a lot of ash on the ground. There was a storm that was moving in, and we weren't getting rained on, but because of that like wind, it kicked up all this ash, and there was just like, the ash in Colorado makes the sky look very, very orange. So if I put my normal preset on those images where I kind of lean more to like, it's still warm, but like true to life, it wasn't clicking. It wasn't vibing. I was like, this looks like a filter. This doesn't look like an edit. I don't know. It doesn't look like professional. So I literally like changed my,
you to find this.
Okay. This is literally what I posted last night. And I was just like, I'm just going to lean heavier into my warmth. I'm just going to pick up on the oranges because with everything else being so like kind of hazy.
I can see the haze in the background.
Yeah, like I just leaned fully into the warmth. However, I still kept my tones of my orange and the tones of my green the same. What I tried not to do was like when I put my typical preset for golden hour on there, it was just I was like, this looks like a 5-year-old edited it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not giving. So there are times where you're gonna have to like kind of go off the rails and choose something else, but you can still make it look like it's in your wheelhouse. Like it shouldn't look like a whole different photographer shot it. And you just really need to like lean into that. Trust yourself, trust your skills, and don't look at an image for too long. Because if you look at that image for too long, you're SOL.
And I would just say that like another really big tip for especially beginner photographers is have like your portfolio pulled up or a certain image that like you're trying to like, maybe it's an image that is close to the same area, timeline, vibe that you're going for this photo shoot, have that you've already edited, have that pulled up. That way you can kind of like look back and forth between the two and be like, oh my gosh, I'm way too warm. Or, oh, my greens are a little off. Or, oh, I need to like go take my orange saturation down just a few notches or stuff like that. That way you can, because when Lindsay and I look at our photos, you could probably like not give us our presets and we could go and get a photo to look very similar to what our presets would look like, just without knowing anything, like just giving us the photo, because we work with it so often and we really like know how to achieve that at the end. But when you're beginning, you don't know that until you just continue to do the repetition of it. So it's one of those things. It's like, don't be afraid to like have a photo pulled up that's like your inspo photo almost, or it's also one thing that I learned really quickly when I was a beginning photographer. Do not be afraid of your temperature and your tint, like Lindsay was talking about, because it is crazy how much like, so you can put a photo in Lightroom, put your preset on it, and you're like, what in the world? This is like not what this should look like at all. And then you go and take your temperature up 1,000 and you're like, oh, hey, there it is. Like, that was the goal.
The thing is too, is like, I mean, I obviously like I play with my color mixers as much as I need to, but literally the very first thing I do to an image when I am like starting to edit it, I'm changing the temperature and the tint immediately. And then I go in and I start adjusting the other colors. But like I said, I pretty much try the only colors in the color mixers, like your saturation, your hues, all those different things, luminance. Am I saying that word right? I don't know. I just press the buttons. But I literally pretty much focus on my orange, and that's about it. My presets I have created, I've worked so hard to make them pretty consistent with all the situations that I shoot in, that really I mean every single image I'm changing the temperature and the tint and the exposure, and my shadows and my highlights, you know, just making them kind of vibe all the same. But really I'm not messing with the color mixer that much because I have found something that works. And once you find something that works for you and you love that, try to stick with it. If you want to change it up, you change it up on a free shoot or a styled shoot. You do not do that with a paying client. No, you cannot do that at all. So that's something that you should say for like the off season, or if the off season isn't giving greens that you want to work with, you know, block out a weekend, do a model call. Don't just throw that onto your clients.
Or what you can do is you can like edit your client gallery the way that you would, and then you duplicate it. And you go in and you start playing around with the photos or things like that. I think that's the best way to learn. But be prepared
if you post those photos from that client page shoot, them to be like, hey, I know you just edited 100 for us in your normal edits, but now can you edit them all in that one I just saw you post? And then you're going to have work. So just be prepared for that. But and the other thing I have done too is like, I've known, and I still do this to this day, because like I'm trying to like transition my edits a little bit into the filmy vibe, a little bit, not like crazy, but just a little bit. So like I slowly kind of just like tick my way a little bit closer and closer to where I want those to be. So it's not like this big noticeable change, but after about 50 sessions, boom. It's, it's where I want. Now, I shoot a lot of sessions I don't have a free weekend until December. Not saying that as a flex. I'm just saying like I shoot a lot during the week and I do not have any free weekends. So like 50 sessions takes me no time to get to. If you are just starting out and you're maybe only shooting 50 sessions a year, that's when you need to look at doing the model call or, the free shoot, whatever style shoot, whatever you want to classify it as. And that's when you need to like
experiment. So I think like Lindsay and I could probably talk about this forever, but I think like the main points of this, no, you're fine. You're fine. I think the main points of this are like, look at your location, look at your timing, look at the weather, all of those things. Like before you even take that photo, what is the situation you are putting yourself into that could potentially, like, you don't have to cancel your shoot, but could potentially alter the images that you are going to be able to produce. So like, look at all of that first and foremost.
Communicate with your client.
Yes, communicate with your client. And then after that, when you have completed that session and you are getting your photos into Lightroom and all of those things, like, find your vibe, stick with it, only try and alter a few things if possible. And if you need to, and you have like a inspo photo up next to you or something like that, that is completely fine. Like, do what you got to do to get to there. And honestly, like as a beginning photographer or someone still figuring things out, repetition is your best friend. So do not be afraid to do those model calls or those free shoots or things like that, or just go back through and start editing old photos again, to just get your fingers and your mind and everything used to editing in that style or in Lightroom with that one.
And it's okay. Like I'm not just saying this because I am a wedding photographer. I know photographers who will not shoot weddings because they're like, you know what, I'm really happy with my editing style. I'm really happy with my client workflow. I want to shoot every single session at Blue Hour, and that's what I want to do. That's what makes me happy, because photography is a profession where you have to be happy and creative. Like it's like it's part of the job. Like if you are not loving what you are doing, you are not going to be taking good photos. That's one of the reasons I focus so heavily on like, hey, I only do Western, rural, ranch, like weddings, couples. That's what my specialty is. You know, that's kind of where I like draw the line. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to go do like a newborn session in a studio. That doesn't like, I love your kid, kind of, you know, I'm not a kid person. I'm so sorry. But okay, anyways, I know, I'm sorry. I like calves. If anybody has any calves, I'm more than happy to come. Yeah, take cute pictures of them. But anyways, like stick to your style. Maybe shooting in the middle of the day or having to shoot through a rainy, cloudy, overcast wedding day is just not your thing, and that is perfectly fine. If you are like, if you go out and you experiment as a new photographer and you're like, I'm going to try, you know, overcast sessions, I'm going to try sessions in the middle of the day, I'm going to try sessions at Blue Hour, and it's just like, it's not working for you, it is okay to pull back and say, I'm really strong at doing Blue Hour sessions in downtown Denver. I'm really good at that. Lean into that. Lean into what you are really, really good at, and stick with it. So I think when Lauren and I are saying like, don't tweak things too much, don't go too crazy. Like you have to just know yourself, know your skills, know what you're comfortable with, know your creativity, and roll with that.
Yeah, for sure. I could not agree more. You ready for the next question, Lindsay?
Yeah. Is that your dogs? Can you hear dogs?
Yeah. Time out. 1 second. BRB.
Okay. What happened?
I think it was.
What happened?
I have no idea.
Sound like a puppy.
Obi was laying outside my door.
Probably what it was.
He might have been sleeping. That could have been what it was. He dreams. Like
dreams.
He dreams.
Yeah.
So it could have been he was running in the fields in his dreams or something. Who knows? Okay. Miss Lindsay, are you ready for the next question?
I'm ready. Do you want to read it, or you want me to?
Yeah, I will read it. So the next question that we had is, what should you do if your camera settings are whack and you didn't notice until post-processing? So this means like if your ISO was absolutely cranked during a session because you were just like in the moment and didn't realize that. Oh,
or the opposite.
ISO was, yeah.
And it's everything's blurry.
Yeah. Like
that's fun.
How do you deal with that? Like I think if you get into post-processing and you're like,
I'm just gonna say this. I would rather have my ISO way too high and not have to worry about blurry hands and not crisp images. But
I can deal with a not crisp image, but if a hand is blurry, I can't fix that.
Yeah, like oh well, oopsies. So this is another question that came to me over on Miss Miller's Photography. So with this, Oh boy, it just gives me anxiety thinking about it, Lauren. I'm not gonna lie to you. It gives me a little bit of anxiety. I will say this. I had shot a wedding one time and we were like maybe 40 minutes into like the different things, like first look, bridal party pictures, that shindig of it. And it was kind of like a really like fast paced day, and I don't know what happened. Luckily, when I got into the vehicle to like move spots, because we had to drive to a bunch of different spots, I had bumped something on my camera because I just like had my cameras in my lap, and it wasn't like focusing correctly. But I remember picking up the camera. We're like 45 minutes into it, and I have the bride and groom in a pose, and it's like not focusing. Now, obviously, I have at least 3 camera bodies with me at a wedding, multiple lenses. So if the camera was malfunctioning, not a big deal. The camera wasn't malfunctioning other than that one like little lever on this or switch on the side of the lens got like switched into manual focus instead of like autofocus. And immediately like my heart just sank. And so what I did in that instance was I was like, okay, so I figured out what was wrong with my camera. I didn't really like say anything. It's a wedding. I'm not trying to alert anybody. So I was just like, hey, Tucker, my husband, he's my second shooter. I was like, Tucker's going to put you guys in a pose now. And he's going to do some pictures. And I literally like kind of stepped to the side and I literally just start scrolling back as fast as I can to get back to the very first images that I took. And I start double checking those bad boys right then and there. Because if we have to somehow redo first look, I would hope not. But I need to know right then and there. So, if you do notice, let's just say you notice at the session, like don't be afraid to go back and look at as many pictures as you possibly can in a short window of time and just be open and honest with your client. Be like, hey, something malfunctioned in my camera. Luckily, if anybody's listening to this that are my clients, nothing malfunctioned. Like I said, I shot these pictures in one location, I got in the vehicle and I bumped something. And so when I went to go take the next picture, it was only one picture that was messed up. So it's fine. It's not fine. But be upfront with your clients and be like, hey, here's what happened. Because if you hide that from them, if you try to act like it didn't happen, I don't even want to think about that, because that is, yes, it would suck for them that they're like, oh, we have to redo first look. But like,
this is also why you have a second shooter.
Yeah. And Tucker had pictures of it too, but come on, I'm a control freak. I wanted the pictures too. But anyways, that's kind of like my personal experience a little bit, but I caught it. Another thing that I do, like I should have been doing it, but I do it at a lot of sessions, especially after that happened to me, is I literally have my camera, if anybody's watching this, I'll have my camera up here and then I'll take my hand and I'll literally put my hand out in like the foreground of it. And then I will like force my camera to focus onto my hand and then force it to go focus on my couple. So I triple check that it's focusing, because if you kind of like stay at the same like distance away from your clients all the time, it's sometimes harder to notice that it's not focusing correctly when you're not like constantly changing that focal point. So there's a lot of things you can do like during your shoot to just triple check those things. But this specific question, as I got off topic yet again, was what do you do if you don't find out till you're home? I don't know. The very first thing I would do is I would see if I'm going to put it in Lightroom before I even say anything to the client. I'm going to figure out what I can and can't save.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your first step?
That is absolutely your first step. You give it a day and you try to figure it out first. And I think it also depends on which thing you screwed up. So did you screw up your ISO or did you screw up your shutter speed? Because like if your ISO is cranked too high and your photos are a little bit too grainy, you can probably work with that. Now, if they are massively too grainy, that's getting in the like touchy area.
Or they're out of focus.
Or they're out of focus.
If they're all out of focus,
there's no fixing
cooked.
that. There's no
You're
fixing
done.
that. There genuinely isn't. Now, like if your shutter speed was too low and your hands are blurry or like things like that, there's no focusing. There's no fixing that.
You might be able to crop some images in.
You might be able to crop some of them in or different things like that. But this is where it just is really important that like before you get into weddings or things that are like once in a lifetime scenarios, that you understand your camera fully and really well, because my heart would absolutely like go out of my body and like I would just want to die as a photographer if I got home from a wedding and realized like I screwed up someone's
I'm getting
entire,
anxiety
like,
right
best
now.
day of their life. I'm getting anxiety thinking about this.
Yeah, and your
like,
wedding's coming up. Lauren's going to be like, can I see those? Can I see those pictures?
I'm literally like texting with my photographer right now.
You're like, so what's the odds?
I trust my photographer fully. Like I'm literally not worried about it.
Let's be honest. Every 5 images, Lauren's gonna be like, back of the camera, can I like take a little peek at that?
No, absolutely not. But I think this is just like a scenario where if it's just like a couple session or something, you can redo that. Is it fun? Is it ideal? Absolutely not. No. But it is possible. And you need to be prepared. You can't redo someone's wedding day.
I would say this, that when here's the thing, as a photographer, like one thing I have noticed in the photography industry is a lot of photographers, in my opinion, sometimes don't take responsibility for some things that have gone wrong. Communication, technical, final delivery.
Like there's, you said communication.
There's a lot of things that photographers don't own up to, and like I'm not gonna be a hypocrite. There's been times I've been like, well, this is how it is, and I mean, it's a hard profession. It's such a creative and a perspective profession that sometimes it's hard. But the first thing that you need to do is, if you are going to be a professional photographer, you need to be professional enough to be able to reach out to your client and say, hey, here's what happened. Now, if you can save the images in Lightroom and you can you can do your thing, like, I'm not saying we're hiding stuff from people, but like a lot of people
I don't know if you necessarily need to.
They're not gonna know, because there was times in the past where I'd ask my non-photographer friends or like my mom, and I'd be like, hey, do you like this edit or this better? And they'd be like, there's a difference. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a difference. Yeah. Like, but like normal people who aren't people who are not photographers or videographers, people who are not staring at these images every single day, they're typically not going to notice. Typically. Now, I'm not saying 10 times out of 10. I'm just saying typically they're not going to know.
That's not us saying like be sneaky or go hide things from your clients or anything like that. But if you can save it, this is on the scenario that like you put it into Lightroom and you can save the photos and they look like your editing style. They are consistent. Maybe they're not your favorite photos in the dang world. But like they look good. They look consistent, all of those things. And you can save them and you're like, oh, whew, we saved it. We're good.
Yeah. Don't give your client a heart attack until you absolutely have to.
Exactly.
We're not being sneaky, but we're not giving them a heart attack until we absolutely have to. There has definitely been times where I have edited a session, and like, it's not that I messed it up. It's just that like maybe the outfits that they were wearing didn't like really match the background, and I was just like not feeling it. I looked at, I edit the pictures and I'm like, I'm trying as best I can. And I deliver the album, and I tell my husband, I'm like, everybody say a prayer. Everybody say a prayer right now.
Everybody say a prayer for Lindsay.
And I get a text message back, and they're like, oh my gosh, we love them. I'm like, praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. So that's what I mean by like a lot of times, like our photos are so, it's a perspective type of thing. Maybe I'm looking at thing. Yeah, maybe I'm like, I've just shot 17 sessions this week that were at the perfect lighting, perfect golden hour. Everybody had on neutral outfits. And then I get like this highlighter orange dress at blue hour and it's raining. And I'm like, I don't know. And then they love it. They're like, I love it. So that's what I mean by like, don't go overboard telling your client if you don't have to. Give it a shot. Give it a go. Give it your best effort. But you do have to know when it's too far gone. And at that point, communication is key. I'm going to say right here, this is a big, big, big reason why, and I know Lauren has future like educational things for us to talk about, so I won't go crazy into it, but first thing I asked this person when they reached out to me, I'm like, well, what does your contract say? What does your contract say is going to happen if a situation like this should arise? We won't go heavy into the contracts, but it kind of touches onto that communication with your client, making sure that it's, this is personally what I would do. If I shot a session, I'm not even going to say a wedding because I'm not even going to give myself that anxiety.
No.
I also have a second shooter.
This is in the scenario of regular sessions alone that we have the opportunity to reshoot. A senior
session, a family session. If you're Lauren and you're doing sale photos, something along those lines. Lauren's probably having anxiety. I don't want to redo
sale photos. Are you kidding me?
Let's say a small lot. 10 goats. Okay? Small little lot. Anyways.
Don't put that on me. Don't put that on me. I know.
Well, I'm having anxiety about it too. You're talking about weddings.
I'm literally going up to Nebraska this weekend, the weekend before my wedding, to go do like a bunch of sale photos and stuff. Okay, don't put that on me.
And then you're coming to Colorado to see me.
I'm coming to Colorado.
Anyways, the first thing that I would do is if I cannot save any of those photos at all in Lightroom, and I know I'm just screwed, for lack of a better term, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write a very mindful, very demure email. Look at me with the slang. I'm cool.
Lindsay's hip. Lindsay's cool. She is very...
Cowboys are demure. Whatever. Anyways.
She's mindful. She is demure. She is not demure. If you know Lindsay in person, she is not demure.
That's rude.
Okay. Lindsay, you are demure in some scenarios and situations, but I think both of us can agree that if we reflect on ourselves and our personalities in our lives, we can be mindful at times.
I'm mindful.
I would not necessarily consider myself demure.
I'm
a little bit more ratchet. I'm a little bit more
unhinged.
I'm a little bit more unhinged. I'm a little bit more I could talk your ear off.
I don't want to scare people. I'm just saying that, like, I come as I am. Take me or leave me, sort of deal. But
anywho,
I would write a very mindful email to my clients, and I wouldn't even send it right away. I would probably write it, throw that bad boy into the chat. What is it called? Thank you, GPT. I always want to call it GPQ. I don't know why. I don't know. Anyways, I throw it in there and be like, hey, make this sound better. Make it sound nicer. Change the tone. Make it sound professional. You know, because, like, those are hard emails to write.
Not fun at all.
Bless my heart. I mean, luckily I didn't have to write any of those emails back in the day. But if this would have happened before AI, like, what are you going to do? I don't know. Anyways, write an email, sit on it, sleep on it, send it off to them, and leave the ball in their court. So I would basically say, hey guys, so first of all, here's what happened. I'm upset about it. I'm torn up about it. I would love to reshoot these images if you are willing. Now, what you need to remember as a photographer is our clients invest a lot of time, a lot of money, not just in us. Maybe they went and got their hair done. Maybe they bought a new outfit. Maybe they rented a dress for 24 hours from one of those online rental places. They've got their nails done. Maybe their husband got off work early and used some PTO to get off work early that day. So you need to keep in mind that there's a lot of finances that are involved in this. Maybe it's a bridal session. I have a ton of clients that fly into Colorado, and we do like a honeymoon bridal session where they like they got married like maybe a month before. They come here for their honeymoon. They go and they like literally get a bouquet of flowers. A bouquet of flowers is like $300, you guys. That's not even money they're paying me. Permits for us to get into parks. A lot of parks here in Colorado, it's like a minimum $10 entry permit just to drive your vehicle in there. It doesn't matter if you're going there to fish, hike, or take pictures. Reach out to them, be like, I'd love to offer you a reshoot. I can save these. I've saved 5 images. Here's what they look like. I threw them into black and white. I would love for you guys to have these. I want to offer you a reshoot. You need to be fully prepared for them to say, we don't want to reshoot. We want a refund. And I personally feel at that point, you owe them a refund.
You owe them a refund.
Because that was on you. Even if you say that like your retainer's non-refundable, that is on you. That's not the client's fault.
Your retainer can maybe be non-refundable, but I think that this is one of those scenarios that, like, as the photographer, you screwed up. Like, genuinely, like, it sucks to think that, but, like, you screwed up. Like, if this ever happened to me and they asked for a refund, I'm giving them a full refund. Because I'm going to feel awful about it, guys. But like, if this ever happened, so it's, you're okay to keep your retainer, but be prepared for them to ask for their money back.
I think I would give them the option in that email. I would be like, so here's what we can do. I would say, hey, like, let's do a reshoot. If you guys are willing to do a reshoot, let's do that. If not, the other option is we just trash all the photos. I'd be very clear with, if you get a refund, I'm not giving you these photos. You're not getting my online delivery service. I'm not paying for that. If I'm getting a refund, like, that's where you can stand your ground as a photographer and be like, if you want a refund, I'm not paying for an online album for 365 days a year for you to look at. I'm not going to, I don't want to say waste my time. I'm not going to waste my time editing photos that you're not paying for. So you need to be clear that you're not giving them any of the saved photos, air quotes for anybody listening right now. And just give them that option, be like, we can reshoot. And I would also, offer incentives for a reshoot. So like, If
Like
it was a
if we
bridal
do a
session,
reshoot, you get a like $100 off of your next one, or I'll get your bouquet, or
yeah, I would like do things like
something.
that. Keep it reasonable for you,
Mm-hmm.
but like make it incentivize them to trust you enough. This was a one-time occurrence. I understand this sucks for you guys. If I was going to one of my parks, I would share. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna make sure I pay. I'm gonna buy you guys dinner. I'm gonna
Yeah.
pay for your guys' vehicle to get into the park. Like this is on me. I'm so sorry if you guys like. If I had no weekends left, I would be like, I wouldn't kick somebody else out of a weekend spot. Be like, do you guys want to do like a sunrise session? Like, I don't normally do sunrise sessions, but I would love to fit you guys in on that. Like, bend
Mm-hmm.
over backwards to make this possible
Yeah.
within reason. Now, you don't need to go into the hole and they can't order a $1,000 bouquet for a $500 bridal session. Like,
Yeah,
that's absurd.
precisely.
That doesn't work. But I would be very clear with them. Be like, we can either reshoot, and here's what I'm going to do to make it worth your while, or if you want a refund, I'm more than happy to issue a refund. Here's what's going to happen. You are not going to get any of the photos. You are not going to get this. You're not going to get that. If their
Say
session
it more
came,
mindfully and eloquently than
yes.
Lindsay's saying it right now, but
Well,
yes.
you know, that's why we're asking chat, whatever it's called.
Yes, yes.
Chat.
AI's been writing it for us. Chat
What's
GPT.
GBT. We got it. It's in my brain now, you guys. We're good.
No, it's not. She's going to say GBQ
It's,
the next time we're going to talk about
it. I'm old, and this AI stuff is not, it's new. It's new to me. Okay? Deal with it. Anyways, I don't know, Lauren, what would you do?
I would do the same thing. Like it's just try and I think like the gist of it here is Lindsay and I can't over a podcast episode tell you all the technical things of like do XYZ in Lightroom to try and save it. YouTube University will be your best friend.
Yeah.
Don't pay for any like outside like subscription things for people to like try and go fix them. Like that's silly and stupid. Don't like try and have AI make it less blurry because like that doesn't work. Like just YouTube University it, try and figure it out that way. If you can't figure it out and your photos are gonzo dunzo, I would do the exact same thing. Reach out to your clients and profusely apologize and figure out a way to make it, like Lindsay said, worth their while. Of like, hey, lay it all out in that first email. Do not send them an email that's like, hey, I'm so sorry, but like we like can't get your photos, like they got lost, they got damaged, blah 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 blah. Don't send that and then wait for them to respond and be like, oh my gosh, oh no, what do we do? I want in that first email you to say, like, profusely apologize. You talk about what happened. You own up to your mistakes. You say, like, this
offer
never
the
happened. Like,
solution.
yes, offer the solutions. Like, you say, here are your options. Option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4, lay it all out. And if they, like, when you get to the ones of them reshooting, give them incentivization to want to reshoot with you so that you can still get that positive review, positive, like, affirmation from those clients, like still fulfill that dream for them. Because there's nothing worse than like as a photographer, people going out there as your clients and saying like they did not enjoy their experience with you or they did not have a positive experience with you. So it's one of those things that like really, really try to incentivize them to reshoot with like the discounts, the partial refunds, the buying you dinner, the whatever it takes type of scenario.
Don't let them take advantage of you,
yeah,
but you also need
advantage.
to recognize what you've done. And like I said, so basically the photographer that sent me this question, when I was trying to like help them arrive to a solution, I was like, well, hey, your ISO is super high. Grain is a really like grain added into photos is super in. And they were like, well, I don't like grain. And I'm like, I don't like, I'm trying to help you. I don't know. And then like, I was like, well, offer them a reshoot. And they're like, well, this session was only an hour-long session. I was there for 3 hours. Plus I drove 2 hours to the session. I'm like,
they weren't wanting to own up to their mistake. And it's one of those things that's like, it sucks. This isn't fun. And it's really hard to like sit in that as a photographer, but like you screwed up. And just sit in that for a minute and acknowledge that, pray that this never happens. And I think like on a point of making sure this doesn't happen to you in your sessions, understanding your camera settings, understanding like even if you have to have a note card like on the back of your camera or something like that, or that you keep with you, that's like if you're still figuring out manual and stuff, that's like, hey, my ISO doesn't go over this, doesn't go under this, my aperture doesn't go over this, doesn't go under this, my I said aperture ISO, your shutter speed doesn't go above this, it doesn't go under this. Like keeping yourself within parameters that you know that like you're going to achieve that look, I think is super helpful. There are scenarios where we just get to scrolling on our buttons and stuff happens. And
or you bump something like I did in the vehicle.
But
I caught it. I caught it.
And I think that's like, just look at your camera settings pretty frequently. Like just every few photos, make sure you're double checking, or like take the extra couple seconds and just double check during the sessions, I think is what's going to be super
ever since that wedding, when I bumped the autofocus accidentally, literally like every time I pick up my camera now, I'm like, okay, I'm like taking a picture of my phone, like of my hand, just to make sure, like, trust me, it is okay to look stupid. It is okay to take 5 seconds and check your camera settings. Like something I always say when we start a session, I'm like, hey, can you guys go stand over here? You guys can make a silly face or whatever, because I'm just doing a light test. I'm just making sure the light is how I want it. And it is fine to do that if you can avoid this whole situation.
Yes,
the whole
exactly.
I didn't take the time. I was too afraid to look stupid.
Yeah, your clients aren't going to think you look stupid by saying, oh, give me a second to change my settings.
Yeah.
They're really not going to. Like,
or there's like, I'll be shooting like a super like in a really dusty place, because it doesn't rain here in Colorado, and like I'll have my lens cap on, and literally like I go to take a picture and I'm like, oh, the lens cap's on, because like we were just walking through the pasture where there's a bunch of dust. Like, yeah, it's a funny moment, you have to laugh it off, but I'm like, would you rather have me have my lens cap on and look like an idiot for 5 seconds, or would you rather have really messed up pictures because my camera is full of dust? So
yeah, precisely. So
it's okay, I think
we can talk about this a lot more, but if you ever have this scenario come up, like just don't be afraid to like message Lindsay or I, and we'll try and help you in any way possible. But it's we're not trying to sit here and give you anxiety, but stuff does happen.
I mean, I have anxiety.
Try to be that. Yeah, me too. Try and be that person that just does everything that they possibly can to prevent this from happening in the first place. And then if it does happen, we just kind of talked about how to deal with it. So
thanks for sitting through our really, 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 really long episode, you guys.
Much appreciated. And the fact, like, the funny thing is, we only did 2 questions.
Remember when you asked if we'd had one more that we wanted to add on there? I'm like, I think we'll be good.
No, we're good. These were both longer questions, though. Like, we had longer answers to these, so hopefully.
And if you guys have questions for Q&As and they're just like quick 1-sentence answers, we definitely look forward to those as well. But be fully prepared that we can talk. We're unhinged.
That we could turn a 1-sentence answer into a 5-minute answer. So be prepared for that.
55-minute answers.
Only here. Yes, for sure. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Next Generation with the Cowboy Creatives. We are so grateful that you guys tuned in. If you haven't already, go back and listen to a few of the episodes we've had before this. And if not, if you've already been caught up on all of it, we look forward to seeing y'all back here next week on the Next Generation Cowboy Creative Style. We'll see y'all later.